Hi, my name's Alf Milliken, and I hope you found the introduction presentation interesting and answered the quiz questions. We now move on to Module 2 that looks at password security.
Alf, is it okay to create a simple password? Something that's easy to remember. For example, welcome one.
Well, think of it this way. If it's simple to create, it's going to be simple to guess or work out.
So Alf, how would someone actually do this?
Well, there are a range of things that can be used, from using the trial and error method, where we just try and guess your password by trial and error. With some prior knowledge, like the organization's default password, it could be really easy. And then in the other end of the scale, there's a dictionary attack that could be used to work out a more complex password.
So Alf, why are passwords so important then?
Well, let's look at it from this angle, an angle that you're already familiar with. Your front door lock in your house, for example, may be the only thing that's preventing the thief from stealing your valuables, assuming that you've locked the windows, of course. The key that opens the lock is similar to the password you use to log into a computer system.
But don't you think it's hard to remember passwords with numbers, letters, and special characters? It just makes it all that much harder.
Yeah, I find it interesting that people can remember the names and phone numbers and birthdays of their family members, business associates, and colleagues, but struggle to remember an 8-character long password. I guess when something is important to us, we can remember it.
Why don't I just write down my password? That way I don't have to remember it.
Well, that's like making a copy of the front door key we just talked about, and leaving it under the flower pot at the front door just in case we forget our original key. The effectiveness of a password is directly connected to who has access to it. Writing a password down makes it easy for anyone to read and remember it. Not a great idea.
So Alf, who's going to try and get my password?
Well, believe it or not, there are professional hackers out there who have made a career out of accessing system data for a variety of reasons. These are people who would just love to know your password.
Why would hackers want my password?
Well, hackers try to access data, some for financial gain, some to try things out, and others to break into systems and cause major disruption to an organization.
How would they actually do that?
They can do this by using sophisticated or simple methods to try and gain access to the system. A simple method could be, as we talked about previously, trying to guess the password. And that's why we need to create a strong password. But there are more complex methods, for example, a brute force attack.
So Alf, I've heard about this brute force attack. What is it?
Well, it's not easy to explain really, but in simple, a brute force attack uses computers to generate all possible combinations of passwords that are used in an attempt to log into a computer system.
So Alf, what can I do to prevent this from happening?
If you think about it logically, the more characters in the password, the more combinations that are required to find the match, making the process take a lot longer. In short, create a long password.
So Alf, are there any other ways that people can get my password?
I'm glad you asked that. Actually, there are many other ways, but let's talk about dictionary attacks because they're amongst the most common types.
So what's a dictionary attack then?
Well, again, it's a complex process, but simply computers are used to generate passwords and combinations of passwords made up from dictionaries that are used in an attempt to log into a computer system. The chances are that your password will be a word or combination of words from a dictionary, even if it's in another language. Remember, computers hold dictionaries of all languages.
So Alf, what can I do to prevent a dictionary attack from happening to me?
Like I said before, the longer the password, the more time it will take to find a match. So creating a long password and changing it regularly can help stop this type of attack and similar types.
Alf, is it okay to share my password with someone? Say if I'm off sick or someone's filling in for me.
Well, no. Think of it like this. If I'm off sick, do you think I will give you my credit card and PIN to use for the day? Like I mentioned in the previous slide, your password may be the only thing that restricts other people from accessing yours and the organization's data. Your password should be a secret that only you should know.
I heard someone talking about shoulder surfing. What's that all about? It sounds really painful.
Shoulder surfing is where someone's looking over your shoulder and reading what you're typing into your phone or keyboard or whatever your password login. And this will be used at a later stage to gain access to an account or a system, information that they're not privy to, that kind of stuff.
Is that why they tell you to cover up your PIN when you're at the ATM?
Oh yes, absolutely. You have to be aware of who's behind you when you're working on a computer or looking at your phone. And to reinforce the secrecy of your passwords and PIN codes, you should change them frequently.
Al, do you have any strategies to remember your own password?
Well, actually I do. It's taken from the US government, who had a problem a few years back when they found that a typical staff member would write down their password because they couldn't remember it.
So how do they deal with that?
So to address this, they decided to encourage staff to create passphrases.
What's a passphrase?
A passphrase is a password that's more like a sentence. For example, Eskimo Joe in Iceland with the number 835. The advantage of a passphrase is that you can create a longer password that is easy to remember, if we make it meaningful.
When you say meaningful, what do you actually mean?
We all have unique experiences that create memories. For me, it's a safari park, a time I spent that I'll never forget. The animals and the location will stay in my mind forever.
So how does that memory thing work?
Eskimo and Iceland have a connection, which is obvious, which could make it easier for you to remember. And by adding a few numbers, non-alpha characters, like a hash, you increase the strength of the password.
But Alf, wouldn't that be vulnerable to that dictionary hack you were talking about earlier?
Well, yes, you're right, but remember I talked about how making a longer password would help against this attack. Well, passphrases can help us make a longer password, but there's no simple answers to security. Well, I found this dodgy application on the internet that I thought would be quite good. But seriously, I used an application called Password Checker I found on the internet. The application tests how long it would take for a computer to work out the passwords using permutations of letters, the alphabet, and combinations of words from the dictionary. The result shows that the password Eskimo Joe in Iceland 835 would take a significant amount of time to work out.
How do you know that this program is a true measure of the password strength?
Well, I can't verify the accuracy of the application, but it does give us an idea of how a passphrase could be a more secure method.
Alf, we all have to use that thing, the number thing that comes to our phone that's meant to be secure and stuff.
Oh, you mean two-factor authentication, or 2FA for short? 2FA does secure some systems, but only when you're away from the organisation generally. It's not applied inside the organisation, sometimes, and it does not apply to every service that's available both inside and outside the organisation. It's a bit of an incomplete solution in many cases, therefore I still recommend a strong password.
Alf, can you sum up what you want to get across to the audience of this video?
Well, an obvious one is don't use things that you've put on social media to create your passphrase, whatever you do. It's well known that hackers troll the internet for information that could assist them in finding out a user's password. Try to use something unique that only you would know. I know it all sounds complex, but you might be surprised how easy and effective it could be. And now for a bit of fun. This video clip contrasts the total disregard for password security with the over-complex IT procedure.
Knock, knock. Hello. Just checking in on my new report. Are you finding everything okay?
Yep.
You find Sid okay?
Yeah.
Do not feed him shrimp. Oh, man. Oh, hey, creating the new login ID. You know, I know that can drag on, so if you get stuck at all, you can always just use mine. No spaces, no apostrophe, no apologies.
You printed your password on a mug?
No, even better. I got it off the mug I already had, hiding in plain sight. I always use the same passwords for everything. Better safe than sorry.
Look, basic best practice is to use multi-factor authentication, a long, random, memorable password, something like Sid Security Dojo, double exclamation. Password managers are good as well. Most people use two-factor authentication. I use five-factor authentication. It's so difficult, most bots can't get through it.
Sounds like a human probably couldn't either.
I could.
I understand that many presentations can be tedious. I know I've said this before, and retaining the material can be a challenge. So I've tried to make this easier by highlighting the key points that you should take away with you and put into action as you leave the presentation. Thank you for taking the time to watch this presentation. You can complete the quiz relating to this module and go on to Module 3 to learn about data security.